Good morning, New Independence, back on the air once again. It is Friday, August 5th. Missed an update yesterday. Can't do it every day. I had something recorded, but it'll come up probably later on today, maybe over the weekend. So there's a lot of talk about Donald Trump. And the media is, it's funny, the DNC propaganda media are talking about the demise of Trump. Suddenly, Trump is done. It's over for Trump. They're doing everything they possibly can to scare the mind-numbed masses, the low-information people who follow the ebbs and flows of the Kardashians more than they follow politics, trying to convince them that it's over already. I mean, the election's not for another 90-some days. So I don't know how it's over. Look, I don't love Trump. I've said this before. I don't love Donald Trump. I respect him as a businessman, but I don't love him so much as a politician. But then again, he's not your typical politician. My first choice was Ted Cruz. Far more conservative. I'm very conservative, as are we here at New Independence. So I don't love Trump, but I love him more than I do Hillary. That's for sure. Well, if you don't love Trump, well, why don't you vote for someone? Well, I'm not going to vote for somebody else because there's no point. A third-party candidate will not win. It's just not going to happen. The closest third-party candidate that could have potentially made a run would have been Bernie Sanders. Had Bernie Sanders run third party, he would pull a ton of people to his side. A ton. And it would have wrecked Hillary. That's why he didn't do it. Because his loyalty to the Democrat Party superseded his own personal ambitions. And he's being used, of course. They're going to give him some favors. You know, he'll get some little pat on the back or some position somewhere. You know, he'll be taken care of. But for the most part, the DNC doesn't care what you do. Politically, they'll take care of you, but they're using him anyway. They just want the old man to go away. Hillary is the one that has to be coronated. They already set up the primary so she could win. We know it's a fix. We know it's a total fraud. I love the deniers out there. That never happened. Again, low information people who don't read things. Of course it happened. It's clear. It's in the emails. They set it up so Hillary would win and Bernie would lose. That's why Debbie Wasserman Schultz stepped down. That's why 4 people resigned from their positions at the head of the DNC, because the cat's out of the bag. And of course, while the whole world was going crazy in the media, were going nuts about Khizr Khan, the human shield that the Democrats are using to protect Hillary from any attacks, the DNC people were released. Was that reported? No. I think Fox News touched on it. A couple other independent little, outfits. But it was never a big, the Post is never going to talk about it. The DNC Post? Nah. The DNC Times? New York DNC Times? No. They're never going to cover that stuff. It might be a little blurb, small paragraph, small box article buried in the paper or buried on the website several pages in. But you'll never know the full story. They'd rather talk about Trump and how his career is over. And you have all these people now, I love the Republican talking heads who come out and say, Donald Trump is destroying this party. And have you noticed the ones who come out and talk the most? The ones who come out and talk the most about how Donald Trump is ruining the election, is destroying the party, is dividing the Republicans, they're the ones who are the most tied into the establishment. You see, there's an establishment. It's not just politicians in the establishment. There are actually reporters in the establishment. There are people who are like Bret Hume, who's been around for a very long time. First name that popped into my head. But Bret Hume's he's part of the establishment. He's never going to totally turn his back on the powerful people, the cronies in the Republican Party. He's never going to turn his back on that entirely because they have been buttering his bread for decades. He is in. They're the guys he can hang out with and have a cigar or have a drink with at a bar to get some inside stuff. He wants to keep his close ties. People like him, there's a lot of them out there. The liberals have theirs, the Republicans have theirs. You know, Krauthammer is another one. These are just people that, again, popping in my head. George Will, that guy. He decides to say, I'm no longer conservative. You weren't before. You weren't before. If he's going to abandon being conservative, then you never were. Conservatism is a principle. It's a way. It's not a strict party line thing. You have to have there's a belief to being a conservative. It's in your heart. It's not just something you say, I'm conservative. No, you have to believe in free market enterprise. You have to believe in low taxation. You have to believe in low government intervention. But these talking heads, these establishment people, these establishment reporters, especially people like Will, they're not true conservatives. They're Republicans. They want to be part of the game. They can't separate themselves from the game because they don't want to lose their connections. They don't want to be ostracized. See, Rush Limbaugh is conservative, but he's so powerful. On his own, he doesn't have to be establishment. He can deviate from the establishment and not hurt anything because he's just too influential. And these Republicans would love, the establishment type would love to have a fraction of the influence that Rush Limbaugh has or Sean Hannity has. They'd love it, but these people are conservatives. There's a huge difference. What you have, the Republicans who are abandoning Trump are doing so because their career is politics. That's all they know. That's their whole life is politics. They may have worked before they got into politics, but it wasn't anything substantial. They've been in politics for 30, 40 years, 20 years. They haven't worked a regular job, built a business, created jobs. They haven't done that stuff. Some have, most have not. Some of them are very wealthy and want to do something more with themselves, so they become part of the establishment because it helps them get along. Mitt Romney is one, but he's not holding elected office anymore, is he? No. John McCain, pure establishment Republican. Rhino. Totally a rhino. Republican in name only. Pretends like he's a Republican. Absolutely votes Democrat. He will side with the Democrats in 2 seconds. Believe it or not, this is going to aggravate a lot of people, but as much as I like him and as much as I respect him, George W. Bush is a rhino. He is. He's a rhino. He's more conservative than your McCain or Romney rhinos, but he's a rhino. He likes to reach across the aisle and help out the Democrats. And this is the funny part about the establishment. Every time the establishment, the rhinos, want to reach across the aisle and help their buddies, the Democrats, pass some legislation, they're doing it because they want to look good to their constituents, to the Democrat side of their constituents, so they can get more votes and say, look, I passed No Child Left Behind Act. I know you don't agree with it, but I passed that because, the conservatives don't agree with it, but I know you guys, you wanted me to pass it. Look, I passed this. And Democrats will say, yeah, look, he actually sided with the Democrats. Well, here's the problem. True Democrats, which are most of the Democrats in the House and Senate, they don't care if you side with them. What they're going to do is they're going to shake your hand, and with the other hand, they're going to twist a knife in your back. That's what they do. They could care less about how they look. They'll look at Harry Reid, old Codger Reid, that fossil. Look what he did. He's held up over 350 bills were passed by the Republican-controlled Congress. Did he try to get along with them, like the Republicans always try to? No. He held the bills up. They were not even put through Senate because the Democrats didn't like them. Well, there you go. Why do Republicans always cater to Democrats when Democrats never cater to Republicans? You know, after Republicans finally took control of the House and Senate in 2012, and they won it back, Joe Biden, there was a report about Joe Biden was in a meeting. It was Obama, Biden, and the House majority leaders and the Senate majority leader, right? They were Boehner and McConnell at the time. And they were in a meeting room, conference room at the White House. They sat down, Biden sat down, looked across the table at those two gentlemen and said, okay, what do you want? Meaning, you guys won. I mean, that's 2 years in a row now, 2010 and 2012, 2 elections in a row where you've taken it away. You've taken more and more seats. The public want X. We'll give them X. Biden's been in politics for a very long time. He knows how to play the get along game. He also knows that what the rhinos want is not too different than what the Democrats want. It's not too different. There are some differences. There are a lot of differences. But in the grand scheme of things, the Republicans will cave and give them a few things that they want. So he says, what do you want? And Obama shot him a look and basically said, nope, not giving him anything. Obama is president. He thinks he's king. And that's why he does what he does. He doesn't care about the House and Senate. All he's going to do is blame it on Republicans, which the Democrats and the DNC media have done. They're blaming it on the blame it on the Republicans. That's all they're doing is blame it on Republicans. That's what they've done. They do it, and that's their MO. Well, nothing's getting done because the Republicans don't want to cooperate. There's gridlock. There's no gridlock. They have things they want to do. You don't want to do them. But the low information people are dense. The DNC media are going to report what Obama says and not the truth. And Republicans don't know how to fight back. They're afraid to fight back against this guy. And I said it before. I'll say it again. There's 3 words that keep the Republicans from fighting Obama. 3. First, black president. That's a fact. They would be wrecking him. I mean, when Clinton was president, there we go. Now you have it's a different time, a different person, but Clinton was president. He lost the control of the House and Senate in 1994. Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House, all right? Gingrich was no nonsense. He had a mission, he was conservative, and he wanted to put that mission forward. They had the contract with America, and it was solid. And he said, this is what we're doing. Clinton tried to fight it, but he said, you know what? This is where you're smart. This is where I'll give Clinton some points. He was a smart politician. I don't agree with his policy, but he was a smart politician on his own. He said, you know, if I agree with the Republicans, they're going to do great things for the economy, and it'll make me look good. And that's what he did. He agreed with the Republicans in most things. They passed the contract with America. It balances the budget, projects a surplus. There was no surplus. People say, we had $10 million surplus. No, we didn't. There was no surplus. It was a projected surplus. The projected surplus was after over a 10-year period or something like that. But there was no actual surplus. I remember the press conference that Clinton held, that he goes up on a dry erase board or a poster board, and he draws a big 0 with a marker on a sheet of paper, saying that we're at 0, we're balanced, the budget's balanced. Well, yeah, the budget is balanced because the Republicans did that. You see, the House and Senate control the money. They control the purse strings. And if you have conservatives in charge, they will be fiscal conservatives. They will control the purse strings more responsibly than the establishment rhinos that are in there, which brings us back to where we are. This is why they don't like Trump. The establishment want money and power. More money than power, because to them, money equals power. All they want is money. First things first. We'll start with money. Then we'll go to the power side of things. They want money so they can live like fat cats. I mean, to make $175,000 a year as a congressman, that's pretty damn good money. But that's not enough for them. How do you think a congressman becomes a multimillionaire. How? It's not by working. They ain't saving their money. They get money through lobbyists. They get kickbacks. They add on pork bill spending on all these different bills that they write. All this different legislation. Pork barrel spending. Sorry, they'll add that on to the bills. I want $40,000 or $40 million for my town or for this, and they take that money and they use it. They get kickbacks and they take care of themselves, take care of their constituents. That's what they do. So they're making a lot of money on the back end. I mean, who's going to want to be a congressman forever unless you're making fat cash? And these guys are making fat. Well, people might want to make a change. There are very few that go in there to make a change. If they wanted to make a change, and they've been a congressman or senator for 40 years, why hasn't a change been made? It's still the status quo. We're still bickering over the same crap we bickered over 30 years ago. The same things. They're still talking about the environment. They're still talking about, now it's called climate change, of course, but they're still talking about the environment. They're still talking about education. They're still talking about debt. Still talk about taxation, schools, everything's the same. Nothing's changed. Why? Because the establishment, Republicans, and Democrats are just as complicit. I'm not just slamming the Republicans, but the Republicans are the ones that are going after Trump, and that's tying into my theme. The establishment Republicans just want to have the status quo. As long as they can get a job, a cushy job, that they can just work every single day, and not have to worry about it, and then con people into voting for them again, and people just keep voting for the popular name, and then they have the money. They have the money to run the campaigns, and regular people don't have that. So, you're stuck. Then there's power. They love the power. They want that seat. They want that control. The establishment wants control. They have control of their people in the media. They have control of their constituents and their lobbyists. They have control. If Donald Trump wins the presidency, that hurts their control. It takes control out of their hands. This is exactly what they don't want. They want to have full power. It's not what it's like. It's like the new kid that comes into town and he's popular. But there is those guys who've lived in town for those kids you grew up with who've always been popular kids. They've been there forever. They're just the guys, the go-to guys. And then all of a sudden the new guy comes in and he's the popular guy. And they don't like him. We gotta get rid of him. We gotta take him down. And they try to do whatever they can to take this guy down. Spread rumors, do whatever. Because they can't handle the fact that they're no longer the popular kids. You're not going along with us. You're not doing what we... Here, I had an example like this. I used to work for a company. And I was brought in as the project manager for the operations manager for this company. The operations manager. Now, I had been in the military for years. I knew how to manage major budgets. I knew how to handle a lot of people. I knew how to handle a lot of equipment. I had it down. And I knew how to fix systems. Well, this job needed systems fixed. So I came into this job. And I came in with like a bull. Went in, bam, observed for about 2 weeks, and then said, okay, let's fix it. And I started putting my stamp on things. Fix this, fix that, do this, do that. And I was making the unpopular nice guy decision. See, the nice guys would sit there and let the salespeople come into the office and root through our files, which I said, no, you can't do, because we have to control our paperwork. I can't have it just disappear. Nice guys would play the get along role with a lot of people. And those people didn't like it. They had their own little cushy, go nowhere mindset. See, as it worked in the old business, they met their quotas, they did their job, everything was fine, and as long as stuff was working good enough, they were happy. It's good enough. We're making some sales, we're making some money, we're doing well, we're okay. We don't need to change anything. Well, there were a lot of problems. And they brought me in, I thought, to fix those problems. So I came in and I fixed all the problems in like a month and a half. I had it all sorted out. Done. I called headquarters and said, everything fine? They said, you got everything fixed. We have no problem with you. Now we got to work on sales. Well, it's not my jurisdiction, but okay. Well, sales was one of the cronies. Sales wouldn't do it. He was too busy kissing the boss's butt. I thought you brought me in to do a job. Well, it turns out that doing a job upset the apple cart, you see, because then they got scared. Oh, this guy's changing that's going to make us actually work. We don't want that. We don't want to actually have to work, like really, really work. Or we can't change the status quo. We like to have our long lunches and waste our time. They like that on the company's dime. So they got rid of me. Well, congratulations. Now you have, that's what the establishment's trying to do to Trump. Those who like the status quo, those who like to have their cushy little lifestyle, those who like it as it's been for 30 years, they don't want Trump there because he upsets the apple cart. He upsets their status quo. He's the cooler kid, the more popular kid who came into town. He's not popular with everyone, but he's popular with a lot of people that Republicans always wanted to be popular with. This is the part that I can't comprehend. This is where I call BS on all the establishment cronies out there. Every single solitary one of them. For decades, we have been hearing, for decades, Republicans have to reach out to independents. We have to reach out. Romney is the guy who's going to reach out to independents. McCain is the guy to reach out to independents. And what happens is they find out that, and this happens every single election. 2008 it happened. It happened in 2012. They find out that the guy they put out there to, quote, reach out to independents was alienating the conservatives. And conservatives wanted nothing to do with him. And the base, even the base wanted nothing to do with him. And what you had was independents who weren't that sold on the guy as it is. And then all of a sudden McCain and Romney would flip and say, and Romney would say, lie and say, I'm conservative. No, you're not. No, you're not conservative. You pretend to be conservative, but you're not. McCain would pick Palin as his running mate because she was more conservative. So he tried, and he ginned up the conservative base, which helped him a bit. But nothing was going to stop Obama. The DNC media had that done. They wrote that story. That fairy tale was written. Long time ago. It was decided upon before the first vote was cast, before the first primary was run. They knew they wanted Obama. Hillary was thrown under the bus. Oh, we'll give the old girl her next shot. But they always try to reach out to the independents. And they never do. Well, here's the funny part. Trump is reaching out to independents. The independents love him. That's the part that's amazing. The independents love him. There are a lot of conservatives that do like Trump a lot. A lot of them love him. They do. Now, you got those other conservatives who are bitter because, Rubio didn't win. Cruz didn't win. Well, they made their mistakes. If these guys were, this is what people say, Trump stole this. If the other candidates were capable of campaigning the right way and had the right message, they would have beaten Trump. Cruz had the opportunity. As smart as Cruz is, Cruz's big mistake was Iowa. In Iowa, he won one primary. He won Iowa. Evangelicals were a big deal. Then he made his speech. Cruz likes to talk, and Cruz talked. And he started saying all this crazy heavy God stuff. I'm all about the religion. But you got to understand that a lot of people get scared off by that. You can't go overboard because anybody who's in the middle will say, oh, he's a crazy guy. He's a God crazy guy. And they don't like that stuff and they freak out. So you got to keep it controlled. Once he won, quick, simple, hey, this is just one small victory. We got a lot more to go. I want to appreciate everybody. Thank you, people in Iowa. You guys were fantastic. God bless America. But we have a lot more work to do. Done. In, out, done. Boom. Move on to New Hampshire and blow it up. That was his biggest mistake. Rubio, he was dead from the get-go. Ever notice that women loved Rubio? Little Rubio bots. They loved, always women. The women are always so defensive of Rubio. Why? Because he's the cute little guy. They want the handsome guy, like the good-looking guy. They're voting with their loins, basically. Seriously, they are. I mean, you see Rubio, and they go, well, it's always women. The women always love Rubio. Why? Well, he's such a nice guy. He's so handsome. He's well spoken. Yeah, guess what? The same thing could have been said about Obama, and where did that get us? Now, I'm not comparing Rubio to Obama. I mean, they're both junior senators. They both don't have a ton of experience. Rubio has more. The problem Rubio had with a lot of people is he sided with Democrats. There we go. He had a little bit of establishment in him. He's right there trying to get part of the mix. Worked with them on amnesty. He wanted to have amnesty. Well, there you go. That's why Rubio killed himself, because he's aligned himself with Democrats. You're not any different than the Democrats when you're working with the Democrats on something, especially something like amnesty, which is a hot button issue. I mean, it's totally opposite of what Trump is saying and what most of the Republicans want. We do not want illegals flooding the borders. We're tired of it. We do not want American culture to change entirely to Mexican or Latino culture. There is an American culture. There is an America. There is an identity that this country has. Every country has their own identity. America has an identity that is composed from other cultures, but it's more of a, you're not just, in France, you're French. In Britain, you're British. In the United States, you're American, but there's something different. There's an intrinsic quality to being an American. There's a how you feel. There's a freedom. There's a liberty. There's a joy. There's something special about being Americans. Of course, liberals are never joyful. They're miserable, but they have the freedoms to be miserable, thanks to those who went before them. They just don't respect those freedoms. They don't appreciate those freedoms. They hate America, and then when they lose their freedoms, they'll be the first ones to cry. But we don't want that. We don't want the country to change, and that's why a lot of people are on board for Trump. They're big on him, and the establishment doesn't like it. They wanted him to have independence, though. They've been trying to get independence all along. Republicans, we have to appeal every election. We have to appeal to independence. We need a candidate that can reach independence. Now you have one. Are you happy? Absolutely not. You know why? Because he's not an insider. He's not one of your cronies, one of your buddies. This is what the establishment does. So now they're going to try to derail Trump. And don't buy into the establishment guys saying we're on board for Trump, because they're not. They're not. They just want to win, and then maybe they can replace him later. But the ones who are alienating Trump, like I said before, they don't want the presidency. They just want power and money. Now, you say, well, the presidency is power. There's so much. Yeah, that is power, but they don't care about that kind of power. They're willing to sacrifice the power of the executive office for their own individual power in the House and Senate. They're willing to sacrifice that. They're willing to sacrifice the freedoms of the Americans and the well-being of this country for their own advancement. They do not care if legislation is tied up in Congress for days, months, or years. They don't care. They don't care that if Hillary Clinton gets elected, she will appoint liberal justices. I mean, think about this. Scalia is dead. She will have a free reign to nominate and appoint a liberal justice. We have to approve her. Doesn't matter, because she's going to keep throwing liberal after liberal up there, and eventually she's going to give a liberal. If you keep disapproving liberals, she's going to put one up there that's not quite as liberal as the one before, but it's still going to be liberal. And Republicans cave anyway, so they're going to cave. The establishment rhinos cave all the time to Democrats. That's all they do. You know, it's like they're like the Republicans are like the little brother, and Democrats are the big brother. And it's like the little brother always trying to make the big brother happy. If I make him happy, maybe he'll let me drive his car. Maybe he'll introduce me to his friends. Maybe I'll be like one of the cool kids. That's kind of how the Republicans look at it. The establishment Republicans. And they don't like the other guys like Cruz or Mike Lee or different people that come in and fight back to do the right thing that the people elected them to do. They don't like that. No, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Don't try to call out my brother. No, you can't fight against him. He's a cool kid. We got to be like him. I want to be in the cool parties. That's your rhinos. It's really sad. But they don't care if the country is tied up, if legislation's tied up. They don't care about a liberal Supreme Court justice being put in place of Scalia. Clarence Thomas said he might retire. So guess what? There's a second one. Think about this. You're 4-4 right now. 4-4, and two of them are kind of wavering. Roberts, who I just can't trust, he's just an absolute, I don't know, he's a loose cannon. Obama must have had something on him for him to rule for Obamacare. Had to have. But Roberts and Kennedy, they go back and forth a lot. Okay, but there's four. Scalia, not Scalia. Good Lord. There's Thomas, Alito, that's the one I wasn't thinking of, Alito, Kennedy, and Roberts. They are primarily your constitutionalists, your conservatives. Then the other side, you have your other four. Ginsburg, Sotomayor, Kagan, and the other one. I don't remember his name. Beyer. So you have 4-4. You put in, Hillary's elected, you now have Scalia. Now it's 5-4. Or it's 5-4 in favor of liberals. Clarence Thomas retires, as he said he's thinking about doing. Guess what? Now it's 6-3. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg retires, you replace her with another liberal. It still stays 6-3. If it's 6-3 in the Supreme Court, everything that the liberals want, the liberals will get. We will have gun control, a loss of the Second Amendment. The Fairness Doctrine will be passed. What is the Fairness Doctrine? The Fairness Doctrine is, I've said this before and I'll say it again, the Fairness Doctrine is to allow people, force radio stations to have an opposing viewpoint to conservative talk radio. So all those stations that have all those conservative talk radio shows back to back, Rush, Hannity, Beck, whoever, they have to offer equal time to Democrats. That's called the Fairness Doctrine. That's called censorship. That's forcing a radio station to put forth propaganda, irregardless of how it affects their bottom line. Conservative talk radio does gangbusters, makes big money. Liberal talk radio has failed, time and again. It is an absolute abject failure. But the Fairness Doctrine would force radio stations to do that. That's a violation of the First Amendment. And don't think for a second that it won't stop there. Because liberals would love to censor the opposing viewpoint as much as possible. And Hillary already said she wants to get rid of the 10th Amendment. She wants to take away religious freedom. They're trying to do that with Obamacare now. Trying to force religions, force churches and religious organizations to give out birth control. Even though it's against their belief. They're trying to make them do it. Of course, they protect the Muslims. Muslims are protected for everything. They can do Sharia galore. But this is what would happen. A 6-3 Supreme Court would destroy what's left of the fabric of this country. It will destroy it. You will not be able to own a gun. You will be limited in your free speech. Believe me, it's already happening now to a point, and if we let it go any further, it's going to get worse. To the point of no return. And then your religious liberties will be impinged upon. It's going to happen. This is all part of the transformation. Remember, Obama said, I want to transform the United States of America. I want to transform this country. That was his thing. We're going to fundamentally transform. Fundamentally transform means he wants to turn it into a socialist mecca. That's what he wants it to be. Well, we see how that's working in Venezuela as they're fighting over trying to get food, as the people are starving to death down there. As the government's calling out troops to stop people from rioting because they can't eat. This is what you're getting. This is the person Obama embraced. He embraced Chavez, leader of Venezuela. He loves the man. He embraced Castro. Obama loves socialism. Obama loves dictatorships. He wants to be a dictator. And the problem is that the Republicans, the coward establishment Republicans, will not stop him. They will not stop him because they're afraid. They're afraid of being called racist. It's really what it is. It's either they're afraid of being called racist or they're just saying, we'll just bide our time. We'll bide our time and we still have the House and the Senate. We're still in control of the money. It's one or the other. I think it's a little bit of both. I think they're afraid of being called racist. And at the same time, they just like the fact that they have control of the money. Problem is, Obama's not a go-along kind of guy, but they're still getting rich. Obama's stopping them from helping the country, but they can still help themselves. And that's what they only care about. So any establishment Republican who is going against Trump, now again, I'm not in the Trump camp, but I'm looking at it logically. If you are against a person who is the opposite of Hillary Clinton, who will not do what Clinton's going to do, if you are against that person, you are against this country. You are against us and our freedoms. If you are against Donald Trump, then, and you're a Republican, then you are against us having control of the Supreme Court. You are against the amendments of the Constitution that will be changed, maybe irreversibly, for generations if Hillary Clinton is elected. That's what we have. So any of these guys who say, I'm voting for Hillary, what they're doing is they have revealed themselves as rhinos. They are nothing but political hacks. Their entire life is based upon their career advancement, how much money they can pocket, how much money they can sponge off of Americans who work hard. Hillary Clinton said she wants to raise the taxes on the middle class. She said it was a misspeak. No, it wasn't a misspeak at all. She said, I want to raise the taxes on the wealthy. And then she came back and said, I'm going to do that by raising the taxes on the middle class, too. The middle class. She said it yesterday. Middle class. Middle class is already hurting. They want to get rid of the middle class. They basically want a wealthy and a poor. That's all they want. Rich and poor. They're already rich. All these congressmen, presidents, they're all wealthy. They're all elitists. They can care less about the rest of us. But Donald Trump, he's really rich too. Right. He is. But he's not in the mix. He's not a politician. He's outside of the norm. Well, Ted Cruz is a politician. You liked him. Ted Cruz is a Tea Party conservative. He's different. He's been fighting against him. That's why they don't like him, because he fights against them for what's right. There are certain people that fight against them, fight against the status quo. They can't take it. That's why they didn't like Cruz. Rubio was going along. Rubio is an establishment guy. He wants to be part of the Big Brothers Club. You know, wants to hang out with the cool kids. And I don't have respect for that. So, this is where we stand. Anybody who is rooting for Hillary Clinton to beat Donald Trump and they're a Republican, they need to be voted out of office. They need to be gone because they don't care what happens to us. And we're the ones that pay their salaries, whether they want to admit it or not. And they hate when you say it. They hate when you tell them that. I pay your salary. They get really pissed. That's the truth. You work for us. We don't work for you, hero. Okay, so that's my update for today. Might be coming back with another one. I got another stick in my craw. And until then, have a great day.